Does anybody have a question? Or I got something I want to talk about if nobody has a specific.
Yeah, what is it that you want to talk about, David?
I want to talk about the 4 foundations of mindfulness.
Oh, good. That's interesting.
And I was talking with a monk friend of mine recently, and we both have read the Satipatthana Sutta at least 20 times and didn't learn how to meditate by reading the Satipatthana Sutta. The information is all there, but how to apply it, it took Mingun Jettawan Sayadaw to figure that out and teach it to Mahasi Sayadaw, and then on and on. And the reason, one of the reasons that reading it, the 4 foundations of mindfulness sounds like, oh yeah, what is that? It's the 4 things that you should be aware of with your mind when you're meditating. Foundations of mindfulness is they're actually the objects of mindfulness more than the foundations kind of means you build on them, but actually you contemplate them, the body, feelings, consciousness, mental factors. And a big thing, a lot of people in all these different schools and books and everything, there's a lot of people that pick 1 or 2 to meditate on because they're expounded separately, the body, feelings, consciousness. They go, oh, I'll contemplate the feelings, But what Mingun Jettawan Sayadaw figured out is you should contemplate them all as they appear. You don't pick one and then go searching for, I'm going to find feelings every time, or something like that. The mind is chaotic, and as it produces body, feelings, and consciousness and states of mind and all these different postures and all that kind of stuff, that's what you contemplate. So the Buddha was expounding all the things to contemplate all at once. As required, as they appear. That's when you contemplate them, And there's also all kinds of traditional teachers and famous meditation masters and all these people that don't teach the way the Satipatthana Sutta lays it out. And the Satipatthana Sutta teaches noting. When he breathes in, he knows, in quotes, I breathe in. That's noting. I breathe in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm hearing, I'm touching, I'm itching. That's noting. And if somebody isn't teaching that, they're not teaching Satipatthana. I'm sorry to say that, and you won't get enlightened. Because the Buddha starts the sutta saying, this that I'm going to tell you now is the only way. Other ways won't do it. Only this way for the purification of beings, for overcoming sorrow and grief, for coming to the right path, for the attainment of nibbana. This is the only way. It is the only way. You can't do it another way. And that was my question to Pamasari in one of our get-togethers. I said, Ekayana Mago, only way. Is that the essence of the Buddha's teaching? I mean, the Buddha's whole teaching is about getting to nibbana. And then he teaches, here's the only way you can get there. Well, I mean, boy, you better pay attention to that. This tells you the way you can get to nibbana, the only way. So if somebody changes it, and a lot of people change it because they want to have their own unique take on it, or they don't understand, or they want to write a book. And I mean, if they write a book on Satipatthana, who's going to read that? So they have their own version of it. If it isn't correct to the Satipatthana Sutta, it won't work. I'm sorry to say that. I'm glad to say it in the hopes that people will realize that it's just, you don't get to nibbana by just doing this or that, or add this or take this away, or kind of do that or something. Nibbana is the most difficult, elusive place there is. It's not a place, but state of, I compare it to a pinhole in the night sky. It's like you gotta specifically get there, not near there. Well, I mean, getting near there is good. But if you want to get nibbana and get Magapala and get enlightened and all those kind of things, you got to get exactly there. And the instructions are very crucial. You can't just go this way or that way, or kind of do this, or maybe you'll find it over here or something like that. It just doesn't work that way. And it took a Buddha to find it. The world didn't even know about it for eons. And that's what a Buddha is. He finds nibbana. Oh, here it is. Here's what it is, and here's how you get there. And nobody knew about it. And they don't even... Mingun Jettawan Sayadaw, who discovered the method and passed it on to Mahasi Sayadaw, got ridiculed. All kinds of famous monks and everything said, oh, this is ridiculous, this noting thing. He's trying to tell you that when you meditate, you should note, what you're doing or something. He said that all these experts, Dhamma scholars and everything, and they ridiculed him for a long time. And the same, Mahasi got ridiculed, seriously ridiculed. And in Sri Lanka, my teacher got seriously ridiculed. And there were these famous monks that write books and are big scholars and everything in Colombo that wrote articles in the newspaper, really, really rude, derogatory, kind of slanderous articles saying, oh, this belly bhavana from Burma there's no foundation for it in the suttas and all this kind of stuff, which isn't true. I just told you, it's right in the Satipatthana Sutta, what to do. Anyway, but Mingun Sayadaw and Mahasi Sayadaw and my teacher and just kind of ignored them and kept doing it and kept teaching it, and people kept getting stream entry and higher. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, well, maybe this is pretty good, you know. Anyways, the criticism got silenced eventually after enough people had practiced and succeeded. So, and all kinds of, a lot of scholars say, first you have to get jhana. You have to do samatha and get jhana, and then you can do vipassana. But in the Satipatthana Sutta, there's no mention of jhana. When the Buddha expounds mindfulness of breathing normally, and then he says, you know, you do this, and then he enters the first absorption, and then the second, and the third, and the fourth. He's expounding it as a samatha practice. But in the Satipatthana Sutta, he expounds mindfulness of breathing, but there's no mention of jhana. It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. If this is the only way, and these brilliant scholar monks say you got to get jhana first, why didn't the Buddha mention that in the Satipatthana Sutta? There's no mention of jhana. Anyway, I mean, I'm having all these revelations about the Satipatthana Sutta in the last month, you know, after 55 years of reading it and talking about it and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and the reason I bring it up is I want to see people succeed. I know people that are doing some other guy's version of, you know, he calls it vipassana also, but it's not correct. And they do it for years and years and years, and they don't get anything. Oh, they maybe get concentrated. A lot of people get deluded, is what they get. They get misled. They start thinking they're experiencing something, and they are experiencing something, but it's not what you're supposed to be experiencing if you're practicing Satipatthana correctly. And they do it, you know, 3 times a year, retreats for years and years and years. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of sad to me to see people that are sincere and they try hard and everything, but it's like, you know, if you have a broken down old Volkswagen and you want to go 150 miles an hour and you keep trying, it'll never go 150 miles an hour. You know, those cars aren't that fast. It's the wrong vehicle. If you want to go 150 miles an hour, you got to get a exotic, expensive sports car that's built to go 150 miles an hour. So, yeah, and I mean, yes, Patricia.
I just wanted to ask, because I thought I heard you say that you're supposed to use all four foundations, and I thought I heard you say all at once. But so I just wanted to ask you to clarify. You don't mean simultaneously.
No.
You start with one, and that's usually the rising and falling, and then as they come up, you one by one, you shift to whatever's coming up. Okay.
Hearing, mind states, moods, memories, imaginations, pain, whatever. You don't.
But would you stay it when starting? You would to build concentration. You would stay maybe with the rising and falling in the beginning.
Yes.
Or you would. Okay.
Yeah. not exclusively, but that's a first kind of anchor to start building attention, concentration, mind. It's a very obvious, impersonal sort of thing going on, that you can begin on. None of us are beginners. We don't need to do that. I always start, when I meditate, I always start with rising and falling. I mean, I've been out repairing the chicken coop or something, and and I come in and I sit down and I go, okay, I want to settle down. Then I start with rising and falling and sitting, feel myself sitting in the chair, and then, and you can get concentrated that way and kind of settle down. And then, then I look at my mind, and I go, oh God, my mind's a mess. I've been running screw guns and digging and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard to be mindful when you're doing that. I mean, you can be kind of clearly comprehending, maybe, aware that you're bending and running a screw gun and all that. But as far as noting everything you're doing when you're repairing a chicken coop, it's kind of tricky. I'm not sure it's even a good idea. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But you don't want to get too focused. You want to keep, if you're running a power saw and swinging an axe or something like that. Driving, yeah. You don't want to be concentrated on your hands touching the steering wheel to the exclusion of everything else. You want to know, you want to see the road, see the speedometer, etc. Yeah. And I think the same is true when you're running power tools and swinging a pick and a hammer and all that kind of stuff. You want to be aware of a bigger picture, But when you're sitting and getting very specific, then, then you just start, somebody was telling me the other day, when I meditate, my meditation isn't any good. My mind wanders all over the place. I said, well, that shows insight on your part. Most people don't know their mind is wandering all over the place, or that their mind is a mess. They think it's my mind, it's wonderful. I follow it wherever it wants to go. I don't question it, So if you're like aware that your mind is chaotic or upset or, scattered or something like that, that's insight. That's 4 foundations of mindfulness. You're aware of your state of mind. That's advanced compared to most people on planet Earth. They're not aware of and especially they don't have any distance on it. They don't go, oh, the mind is disturbed right now. They go, I'm really disturbed. It's like there's no separation between them and the mind, even. They don't have any perspective or distance on the mind. It's them. They are the mind. And it's real, and it all means something, and it doesn't. Just between you and me. Oh man. And my friend who committed suicide, 6 months ago or something like that, a neighbor guy. God, he was believing, well, he's drinking and doing drugs also, and he's really deep in debt, looking like he could never pay back all the money he owes, But he's just gone on that stuff and believed it all, and to the point that he killed himself over it. So it's like, it's not that serious. I mean, it looks bad. And yeah, you might have to work really hard for a number of years to pay back everybody. But he's only 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can dig out. You're smart. He's a smart, likable, sociable, good looking, educated, articulate guy. I mean, he had it all. Yeah. He should have been locked in a rehab. But it all happens so fast. And you don't think, can we lock this guy up? It's like, if he's locked up in a mental facility for 6 months and dries out and doesn't get cocaine and doesn't get alcohol and gets tranquilized and kind of like, oh yeah, and pulls out, at least he's got a shot at it. He has a chance at being a kind of reasonable, sober human being that can look at his problems with a sort of reasonable perspective.
Right.
But when you're all, drugged and alcohol, really extreme and just running wild, you're not gonna pull yourself out of that. I mean, a lot of people don't. It's very common that they don't. The only thing that saves them is their family has them committed or something. He would have consented. He was talking about going to rehab, but he was going to do it 2 weeks later in Illinois because it would be $5,000, and in California it would be $20,000. So he was going to move to Illinois and go to rehab there because it was much less expensive. Well, he didn't live to move to Illinois and go to rehab. So he was, he knew he needed it. Whether he would have done it or not, I don't know. But anyway, that's the extreme opposite of where we're going, hopefully. With mindfulness, you get a perspective, a distance, and you can sort of, in a calm, detached manner, look at the situation, whatever it is, whether it's you're unhappy or you're angry or you're worried about money or something like that. These are just mental states popping up out of nowhere. You didn't invent them. They're not coming at your bidding. They just appear, and they're impermanent, and that's important, that they're impermanent. I was telling a friend of mine today, Reverend Sievely, who was my teacher's chief, sort of heir apparent, except he died. But he and I were in Hawaii at a Jack Kornfield, Joseph Goldstein retreat. And I guess there still is, but there was an organization called Spiritual Emergency Network. And the woman from Spiritual Emergency Network called and said, oh, there's this guy that's really having problems. Can I bring him out there so he can talk to you? And I guess Jack said yes. So they brought this guy out, and he was trying to do a retreat in his house. He had a wife there, I guess, who was feeding him or something. And he got sick, like flu or something like that, real sick, but he didn't want to stop meditating. So he ends up like in his sleeping bag, sick as a dog, trying to meditate, depressed. It's like, so he came out there. He was a good guy, and 35, 40 years old or something. He wasn't some nutcase or anything. So Jack kind of, talked nice to him. I told him I thought he ought to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. And he said, oh, like I'm a vegetarian and all this kind of stuff. And antibiotics are bad for me, bad for people. And I said, yeah, but so's being sick as a dog with the flu is bad for you also. So maybe you should, take antibiotics, get over this, cleanse yourself of the antibiotics, and then go back to the meditation. I thought that was pretty good advice. And Sivali said, you have to realize that this is impermanent. And I thought, that is I don't think that's a very good answer. The guy was cured. All his mental frustration and anxiety and everything went away. He kind of sort of fell out of this whole frustrated, stressed anxiety situation he was in and went, oh yeah, I'll get over this. This isn't permanent. This situation I'm in will pass. Amazing. I just went,
so that's just what he needed to hear at that moment. It seemingly
Yeah.
somehow knew that. Yeah.
But what a simple, I thought it was kind of an oversimplification when I heard it. That was my reaction to it. But it wasn't. What was it, 5 words or something like that? He just said, you have to realize this is impermanent. 7 words. Bingo.
That's good.
Yeah. So, but what he was actually doing was sharing insight with that guy. Also. Impermanence. Anyway, it helped. And our time is up.